was so excited to watch this NCAA tournament. I have to be honest with you. It's been a little substandard, and I don't say that often. I think it's only the second time that I've said that in my life. So, what do people need to do, Cooper, so we can dive into that?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thank you, Coop. First down, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
Good or bad to have fewer upsets in the tournament, especially the first couple of days / opening weekend?
I actually think it's bad. And the reason it's bad, now I'm not an upset lover. I'm not one of those people that like thinks upsets, a tournament that literally is designed for upsets makes it exciting when there is one. But that is the whole selling point of March Madness. College basketball sacrifices its entire regular season for an exciting week of upsets and Cinderella stories. They sacrifice everything for that. So when you don't have it, you've literally taken the only thing college basketball has to make it exciting as a sport right now.
Okay, I'm going to say that it's better now than having a bunch of upsets because the regular season means so little that I think the teams need to have some exposure in the Final Four. And that will help me know, and the casual basketball fan, the names of some of these guys that are going to play next year. So I'll actually say I would rather see the bigger, the higher seeds and the blue bloods at the end more than I would have ever again, because I believe, leading to your next point,
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Lack of upsets due to the fact that higher seeds are now more experienced in the NIL. There are probably, oh my goodness, 20 to 50 players that would have gone to Europe or would have gone to the G League, whatever they call it now, or might have tried to get in the NBA, but didn't think they'd be a lottery pick. So if you're not a lottery pick, your wisest move is probably to come back to college. So I don't think there's any question that NIL is going to help college basketball. I think it did the same thing with fueling the up seeds, but I love it for basketball, and I think it may have a bigger impact and quality of play than in football, to be real honest with you, Caleb.
I think long term, you may be onto something. This
I
is
don't think
where
I necessarily am now. I'll give you that.
Well, no, this is actually a good point because here's something I've said. So, okay, higher seeds are teams that perform well in the regular season. Over the course of a regular season, talent determines who the better teams are, right? No matter how inexperienced you are, talent determines over a 30-game season who's better and who's going to be a higher seed. Is that fair to say?
Agreed.
So, but in a one-game tournament, experience comes into play. Well, now you're at a level where the more talented teams are also the more experienced teams, with the exception of Kentucky. And with that combination, it's going to be harder to pull upsets for the lower seeds to pull these upsets against higher ranked teams. The one and done area, you bring this up, you're right. It's still there, but it's nowhere near as prominent as it was. So I think the golden age of upsets in March Madness was like 2008 to 2020. About that period. Like before then you had upsets, but they weren't as crazy. And
well, it's funny you say that because, well, one of the years that I thought was the best was right towards the end of that. And I thought there was another one since COVID that has been kind of blah. So you've got me in a time frame with two blah ones that been one of the best ones I ever saw around 2018. So I'm not going to go back and look at all of them, but got me in a pretty good spot.
Yes. And so, I mean, like for instance, until about 2008, obviously no 16 seed had ever beaten one seed, and very few 15 seeds had beaten two seeds. And then over the past 12 years, you had a 15 seed team make the Sweet 16. You had a year where two 15 seeds upset two seeds. You've had two 16 seeds upset one seeds. I think that's coming back down. I think it's leveling back out to where college basketball used to be, where in the first weekend, you'll have one or two amazing upsets that everybody remembers. And then you'll start to see the better teams, kind of filter their way through as the weeks go on.
I've got another reason, by the way, that the tournament doesn't have as much luster that I'm going to throw on you. First, it's time for Third Down, brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spa Showroom in Athens, delivered within 125 miles. They're awesome.
Tennessee Center, Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, third down. It's the lack of upsets due to the fact that higher seeds, is it good or bad for the sport to have fewer upsets, which would mean less parity in the future? Would we like to see 10, 15, 20 teams distance themselves from the field, or have a one dominant team like UNLV or Duke in their little mini runs, or Florida in their mini runs? Do we have to have that in basketball? Does that matter? And it's more likely to happen if guys are staying around because of NIL money.
So you're saying this is going to bring more parity in the future, even if there's not a lot of upsets right now?
Yeah, I don't think you've got to. I think it's going to bring. No. I'm sorry. The exact opposite. I think it's going to bring less parity, because I believe there are going to be programs that are going to be able to afford those players, those clutch players, like Dalton Knecht. I mean, he was the gem of the transfer portal, and Tennessee got him with some pretty deft recruiting by Rick Barnes. I'm sure he got something, but that wasn't money based. For the most part, I think these decisions are going to be money based. And then I think North Carolina is going to be able to pay more than a Temple. I think you're going to see a little bit of a gaping hole in the middle of, in terms of the top 10, 15, 20 teams, and then everybody else.
See, I actually disagree with you, interestingly enough. I think that, because remember, Dalton Knecht wasn't even rated coming out of high school. And this is where there's a big deal on this, is that the NBA has, okay, let's take basketball for a minute. With basketball recruiting, there's the top 5 recruits and then everybody else, right? I know there's 25 5-stars, but in reality, it's just 5 recruits that just stand out. Maybe even 1 or 2, honestly. You tell me. I mean, there's a Kevin Durant one year, there's a Derrick Rose one year, there's a Greg Oden and Mike. There's never more than 2 or 3, actually.
It seems like usually there's one major one that is practically a can't miss, and then there's like 2 to 5 behind him that you're thinking are a probably not miss.
Exactly. Every other recruit in college basketball, from number 6 to like 600, have much more similar odds of being great. Like there's less of a gap. So the 6th best recruit in college football versus the 200th best recruit in college football, the 6th best is almost 99% of the time going to be better, right?
Yes.
I don't think that's the case in college basketball. I think the 6th best in college basketball versus the 200th best in college basketball, if the 200th best goes to the right program with the right coach with the right development, could easily be better than the 6th best recruit in that same year. And that's why I think there will still be more parity, because while NIL won't be able to, you're right, the big programs won't be able to purchase those Kevin Durant's or those Anthony Davises or the people like that, you'll get a lot of NIL collectives to get one kid to stay home at a Marquette or a Creighton or a place like that, and even smaller schools. And because it's I still think it's going to be very spread out. So I still think there's going to be parity in the sport because of that.
I'm going to support your parity argument, even though I disagree with it, but for a far different reason. 4 Downs is brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas in Athens. 4 Downs means 4 seasons of great spa comfort, and it's incredible on your back as well. I can testify to that. Dynasty Pools and Spas. It's not the players. It's those guys that are walking the sidelines. That's what's affected upsets in the tournament. Just imagine having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. What about that? Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And then delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Caleb, I've never been a big fan of Mike Krzyzewski, but it seemed like every time he was coming into the tournament, there was a record on the line. It seemed like with Bobby Knight, you were waiting to see if he could win that second championship. It always seemed like there was a good storyline. Coach Calipari had a loaded team. Is this the time that he can show everybody that he's right with a one and done? I don't know that there's, other than few maybe, not few people, Mark Few, that there's a great storyline around some of these coaches. And I always thought that college basketball was as much about the notoriety of its coaches than any other sport. And half the time in the NFL, they run such similar things right now. You don't even know who the head coach is. Same thing with the NBA. I know who the head coaches are in all these matchups, don't you?
Yeah, college basketball is much more scattered out with elite coaches that don't win national titles. So there are a bunch of coaches that are always knocking on the door. And you have a few of those in this tournament. You have Mark Few, who, again, I think the evidence is there. Mark Few not winning a title has just been bad luck at this point, because he's a great coach. He always has Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, Sweet 16, Final Four. And then obviously Rick Barnes is another one. The other storyline is Matt Painter. I mean, the idea Purdue was a 1 seed who lost last year. The last 1 seed that lost to a 16 seed in the first round went on to win the NCAA tournament the next year. So you do have quite a few intriguing storylines. I mean, even another one, Shaka Smart has Marquette in the Sweet 16. He was at Texas after Rick Barnes, and they're both there now. And, I still think there are storylines in college basketball. The thing about college basketball is, doesn't it seem like there are a lot more respected veteran coaches in college basketball without national titles? Whereas in football, if you don't have a national title, there's very few. Frank Beamer is the only one I can think of, right? That's a long-term veteran coach who just doesn't have a title ring, but you always respected him.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else that you look at and you say that was a great elite coach. But he doesn't have a title. No, I can't. That's a good one.
Yeah, and you say that about college basketball all the time. Like, people respect what Rick Barnes has to say. People respect what Mark Few has to say. I think Josh Heupel is a great coach, but I don't think the college football universe is going to be like, let's see what Josh Heupel has to say on this topic right now. And so I think that's, you don't have a lot of respected statesmen in college football who don't have national titles.